Well, several billionaires and tech titans have been trying to get into Donald Trump's good graces and have donated millions to the inaugural festivities today. Those include Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk, the billionaire chief executive of Tesla. Musk actually spoke at Trump's inauguration Eve rally last night.
This victory is the start, really. What matters going forward is to actually make significant changes, cement those changes, and set the foundation for America to be strong for a century, for centuries, forever, and make America great again.
We're going to talk a bit more about Elon Musk, the world's richest man, and his influence on Donald Trump now with Steven Feldstein from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in Washington. Steven, thank you for taking the time to speak to us very early this morning. We just heard Musk there saying he wanted to cement changes for centuries. Just break it down for us. What changes does he want to cement permanently right now?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's a pretty historic day and one perhaps unanticipated. With Elon Musk and other sort of tech titans that have really come into Donald Trump's corner, not only in the last few weeks, but frankly, for most of the campaign, I think what we're seeing for them, they see a real opportunity to push forward their innovation agenda, to kind of get away from regulations and some of the constraints they felt they experienced under the Biden administration, and to sort of move forward with less and less restrictions when it comes to a host of technologies that they're pushing, from crypto to AI to space-based technology and so forth. So I think they really see an opportunity to kind of push back on what otherwise has been, I think, over the last 4 to 8 years, I think a growing push for regulation, whether from Europe, whether from Biden, the Democrats, or otherwise. I think they see a real opportunity to kind of move forward in an agenda that will fit their interests and suit their needs.
So you talk about their interests. We're talking about billionaires here. Musk is now going to be sharing responsibility for the new Department of Government Efficiency with another billionaire, Vivek Ramaswamy. That they want to slash public spending, which means many middle and lower class Americans are probably going to lose out. Would you say, is it too far-fetched to say Musk and Trump are launching a new class war?
I don't know that I would go so far in that respect, in part because so much of their support actually comes from blue collar workers, lower middle income voters. And so I don't think that it is meant to be a repudiation of that base. I think what it is meant to be is their sense is that government's in the way. Their philosophy, and this is part of a kind of traditional orthodoxy for the Republican Party, is that the best way to help people to bring about public services is to improve efficiency and to move the government out and to move the private sector in. So I don't see it, they see it as, well, let's find a way to tamp down and start a class war. I think that they see it as a way, let's make government better. Now, many would argue that that's not the way to do it, that cutting services in the name of, quote, efficiency will actually lead to those outcomes. But that's the argument that they're making. That's the logic that they're pursuing.
You were talking earlier, Stephen, about regulation, and I'm curious about the effect Musk and other digital titans like Mark Zuckerberg could have on the European Union. Europe, of course, has long been one of the safest digital spaces for internet users, but now critics say that Musk, Zuckerberg, and Trump are out to dismantle these EU digital rules and the democratic values that they were built on. Do you think that's likely to happen? And if so, how? Like, should Europe be worried?
I think there will be pressure. I don't want to project too far ahead in terms of what that'll look like, but I do think certainly if you look at the criticisms that they've levied, both against sort of the kind of similar type of regulations that we saw under President Biden, and also what they've said and commented on Europe and their belief that Europe is trying to constrain their growth and to constrain innovation, I think there will be a lot of pressure that's built. What could that look like? So that, obviously tariffs are on the table. Tariffs are on the table all around for all kinds of things. But certainly one would think in the types of negotiations and discussions that will occur in subsequent days and weeks that tariffs might be on the table in terms of, well, if you can keep pursuing actions against our different types of technologies, perhaps you will see a quid pro quo in terms of penalties that will be accrued against your own economies. Now, that being said, I do think that there is a little bit of a discrepancy between big tech and sort of small tech. At least in the past, Donald Trump hasn't been a fan of big tech, and conservatives have really pushed back against what they say is a censorship agenda. So I think there's a little bit of a nuance when it comes to what types of tech, particularly, will the Trump administration push for, and where will they be a little more of a nuance? And that I don't completely know yet.
Stephen, just very briefly before you go, I mean, how long could this Musk-Trump honeymoon last? Do you think there could be clashes down the line? For example, I'm thinking of Trump's other large MAGA base who are very, for example, anti-immigration, whereas tech billionaires like Musk have said they do want to keep hiring top-level immigrants. We were talking before about slashing public spending, which wouldn't necessarily be good for lower-income MAGA supporters. I mean, do you think cracks will start to show?
The MAGA coalition is a pretty unwieldy coalition, and it's an unlikely one. And I never would have predicted a couple years out that you would see this type of grouping come together. So I don't know that it works in the long term. And I also know that the egos of Musk, Mark Andreessen, Trump, and many others is pretty large, and already the cracks are the fissures are showing. Um, it's hard to say. Well, will there be a falling out? That's certainly possible. There's a lot of inconsistencies, but I will say this: that policy inconsistency has been a hallmark of Trump, and personal relationships and transactions is what matters. And to that extent, I wouldn't predict tomorrow, in the short term, that this will fall apart. But I think in the medium term, I think there are real question marks about how long this type of coalition will endure.
Stephen, thank you so much for that. Steven Feldstein there reporting for us from Washington.
Thanks for having me.